Berlin. An Oxford-style debate gave us the chance to meet our bestseller author Douglas Murray again. The thesis of the evening: the necessity of an ever-widening EU. Douglas Murray spoke against the motion. We asked him about his assessment of the current situation. Douglas, thank you for meeting us again.
Great pleasure.
You're in Berlin today, so we had the big honor of seeing you here holding or helping in a debate about the ever-widening European Union, the ever-deepening European Union. Do you find that there's a difference in atmosphere when discussing these topics here in Germany and in England?
There's a difference in atmosphere everywhere. I mean, one of the things that I find fascinating about my ongoing endless travelling across our continent is that you see the same debates everywhere, but there's always an ever so slight difference depending on which country and sometimes which city you're in. Yes, I mean, the debate here tonight in Berlin was different from the one we'd have in London, but the similar themes that always come up, yeah.
What strikes me most is the level of aggression against people who don't happen to think the proper thoughts about the integration.
Yes, I've had worse than tonight, but yes, that's the norm. As I said at one point in the debate this evening, I mean, if you give the public two choices, you should expect that it's possible they might vote for one of them that you don't agree with. And that's the case even more so at national elections. I find the dismissal of public votes to be one of the most worrying things. But yes, it goes on, the sort of defamation of people for voting the wrong way, voting for the wrong parties and so on. And that's the same everywhere.
Yeah, so this is a concept of voting wrong.
Yeah.
So people have developed this idea that people vote wrongly when they haven't been informed in a proper way.
Yes, that's one of the ways in which people used to say that you could tell a populist was that they were very basic, really, and they relied on very simple ideas, and the people who voted for them must be simple. Well, of course, now the extension of this includes lots of intellectuals, lots of writers, lots of professors, lots of very learned people, and yet the pretense is still kept up that they must be therefore misleading people, leading them astray, and so on. And I just, I genuinely say it. I said it tonight to my opponents. I mean, consider that when people differ from you at the polls, they're onto something, and work out what in their argument is good and what isn't, and then adapt and ameliorate. But I'm just struck by this doubling down, ever doubling down.
Yeah, this is a very strange attitude, I must say.
Yeah.
It's like children who do not behave well.
Yes.
So you tell them off.
Yes, that's right.
So, but what is the problem with their voting? What is the problem with voting for Brexit?
Well, I mean, the problem is that it wasn't how things were meant to go. And I do see, I mean, it's an ongoing and very difficult process in my country, but I do see why the feeling has been so strong against the vote since. And of all of the things, I would say the most striking is that it was the first vote in more than a generation where the direction of travel that had been presumed by, I don't say the elite, because there's no such thing as the elite, but an elite, turned out to have been stalled. And I think that not only shocked and amazed, but deeply hurt. But
when you're on a shining path, I suppose you've got to be disappointed when people don't go along with it.
Yes, I mean, one of the reasons I'm against utopian political projects is because the people will always let you down. And we hear this all the time, the top-down berating, as we mentioned earlier. But no, there's been this set of votes now since Brexit. I just think, and I think the upcoming EU parliamentary elections will be a great example of this. There will be parties that people are meant to vote for and parties that they're meant not to vote for. And if they vote for the parties they're not meant to vote for in large enough numbers, they're still not meant to have voted for them. It's not as if there's any lesson to learn from, and this, as I mentioned in the debate tonight, is one of the things that so worried, I think, the British people for a long time was, why, if we keep voting, like we voted UKIP as our main party in the European Parliament, and nobody listened, and that's the sort of thing that frustrates people. And as I also mentioned tonight, I regret and resent this mistreatment of people for voting the wrong way, because what can we do other than vote to make our views felt?
What is the sense of voting? It reminds me strongly here in Germany about the goings on in GDR, where there was also a vote.
Right.
But it didn't mean anything because you could only vote for the right things. This is strongly resembling to that sort of thing.
We're still allowed to vote for the wrong things. It's just that we get this terrible defamation when we do, and people think that we must have been misled or that a Russian bot made us do it, rather than the possibility that the facts made us arrive at a different conclusion.
In your book that you published with us, you stated your strong, how do you say it? You were troubled by the thought of too much immigration and the consequences of it. You warned about too much immigration. Now, with the Brexit, which was probably taken because people hoped they would sort of curb it a little bit. What do you expect? Do you think this problem will be solved first of all in England and later how is going to go on in Germany or in Europe itself?
Interestingly enough, there's not been very much shift in the British immigration figures since we voted Brexit. But interestingly enough, the public ranking of immigration as an issue has gone down quite significantly. And I find this very interesting because it suggests that the public think, that, rightly or wrongly, they think that by voting Brexit they've done the thing they asked for, which was less migration. Now, the government still has to act on that.
Exactly. What actually happens? Have they curbed immigration in any way?
Well, the figures are complex. So without getting into them, there's a target they've kept failing to meet, which they still fail to meet, and so they decided to abandon the target, which is obviously one way to get around a problem. But I'm fascinated by this fact that the public think that they have done the thing. I think that people will have to keep onto the government very carefully to make sure that it's not just talk. We had in Britain in the 2000s a Labour government that quite often talked quite a tough talk. They would have somebody in the government who talked a very tough talk about immigration. You're not having any of this and that, but the figures were massively increased immigration. So I think people have to be very careful to make sure they keep onto the figures and not just the rhetoric.
Yeah, so
it's all going to be. The point is that if we leave, that'll be more than it was before, entirely in our own hands.
Yes. So now tonight we've learned that the Parliament has actually voted for the move to not get out of the EU
with no deal.
With no deal. Yes. So what do you make of that? What will happen? This is now sort of a question way out of your topic, but what do you expect what will happen?
I hadn't heard that. It must have come through during the debate.
It's three votes majority.
I think it's unwise to. The Prime Minister had said that no deal was better than a bad deal. She obviously doesn't think the deal she's got is bad, but I think a lot of us feel that no deal should have remained on the table as a bargaining chip apart from anything else. And we have a profound democratic problem in the UK, which is that the public asked for something and Parliament didn't agree with the public.
Yes. If they ask for the curbing of immigration, that's a taboo.
Yeah.
Does that sort of go in line with the topic of your new book you're writing at the moment?
Well, that's a deep secret, you see, and I'd have to kill you if I told you anything about it. Then I'd have to flee the country, obviously.
That's
the European arrest warrant is still in place, I think, so we'd be in trouble.
Didn't you want to be a sort of nice and charming, left-leaning liberal Londoner yourself?
Right.
So what made you go astray, so to speak?
What made me let everyone down? It's a very good question. I would have to ask my mother. No,
the poor woman.
The truth is that whenever I try to work out why I end up at any positions I do, I tend to find there's one thing in particular they have in common, which is I have a very low tolerance threshold for lies. I really don't like lies. I don't like small lies, and I particularly don't like very big ones.
Yeah.
And I think there are very large lies on a whole range of subjects that people have been persuaded to imbibe. And when I saw some of them, I became, it changed my mind on things.
I always hear that the populists, like you, are exaggerating, are hysterical.
Yeah.
Say they see ghosts where everything is basically good, everything is fine. So what's your problem?
Right.
What do you say to that?
Well, if they're right, then it's all going to be perfect, isn't it?
Yeah. So,
if they're wrong, then we're in trouble.
yeah. You have a public figure here in Germany, Mr. Sarrazin, who has, like you, warned against the consequences of too much immigration. The guy now is a pariah. Whenever he goes anywhere, if he wants to go to a debate, the Antifa is having demonstrations against him. He's a really a no-no person now. Yeah. Is it as bad with you in England, or are they a little bit more tolerant there?
I don't know if I'm the best person to work that out.
Yeah, you're too good looking. Yes.
No, I don't know if I'm the best person to work that out, because you become used to things, don't you? You become used to certain presumptions being made about you, but all I can say is I don't know, I don't feel like a pariah. I certainly don't live like one. I find that there's massive public support for the things I write and I say, and my book has been a bestseller in many countries, and I think that happens usually because you're on to something. It tends not to happen if you've just made up a load of stuff and called it fact. So, no, I don't feel like a pariah at all. I don't think I am. I don't think many people think I am. I know there are some people who'd like to make me so, but they failed, and they'll go on failing, but that's what they're good at.
And I hope that a lot of people will try and find out themselves if the things you write are right or not.
Sure. I mean, and also I just stress that whenever I'm writing about things that are very difficult, it's not like I want to be right on them. It's not like if everything went very badly on some of the things that I write about, I would be just delighted to say, I told you so. I'd like to be wrong.
Right.
I'd like to be wrong. And if I am, then terrific.
I'm afraid you're not. Thank you very much.
That's my summary. Thank you.